Bob, quick picks again. We thought we'd pick up something from again. This is being talked about already. I actually, Chris, I don't know if you caught it on the cyber call earlier today, but they were talking. They actually had a little bit of a conversation about this. But this is the CrowdStrike
Yeah.
issue. So why don't you want to brief them in? Go for it.
Yeah. So, the report is that CrowdStrike terminated an employee for, I think it was just taking screenshots of information. Obviously, it was confidential. And in doing so, they were doing so in response to an offer by Lapsus for $25,000.
Yeah,
So that's kind of the gist of it. And,
yeah.
we can go from there.
A reverse bug bounty. It was a, a breach bounty.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And
Yeah.
CrowdStrike says, hey, we caught this guy, and in time before he did any, and before it turned out to be anything bad, and yada yada yada. But yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of the story. It's interesting to me because I'll tell a little bit of a story. When
Go ahead.
there's a friend of mine, Sean, that was a consultant for us at the bank I was at, and I think, out of school, I think his first real job was with Bank of America. And I remember he was saying that his manager at the time had said, "Hey, look, he's kind of given the whole." She was giving the whole kind of embezzlement speech to him, and said, "Hey, look, we're a big bank, but you would have to steal an obscene amount of money. Back then, this is probably 20 plus years ago, 30 years ago, in the hundreds of millions of dollars to even be able to maybe get away with it and stay away with it for the rest of your life. And the bottom line is you're not going to ever get a hold of that much money, no matter how hard you work. There's enough controls in place. That's not going to happen."
Right.
So that kind of was the deterrent, and it was a pretty logical explanation. And then there's I still get calls. I got one actually earlier today about somebody concerned with an insider threat, and it happens. But man, this one kind of shocked me. For it's $25,000. I mean, come on, that's
Yeah.
you gonna risk it all for that?
Yeah, that was my take on it. It's like, okay, because I mean, I'm going to assume, and I'm assuming, but I'm assuming CrowdStrike pays, a standard
Uh,
average, rate, and for somebody working in that particular center that was supposedly involved in this, you got to believe that that job was a well-paying job, right? I mean, it couldn't, I doubt it was the cleaning person who was doing this, right? I'm pretty sure it was
Exactly.
somebody because they wouldn't have
Yes.
known what to take pictures of. So,
Exactly. I mean, CrowdStrike, they're a big company. Their total comp
right,
package is very good, as what I've heard. Benefits. I
yeah,
mean, even if you just look at salary, it might be average or slightly above average, but when you lump all those benefits on, yeah, you're not
yeah, well,
usually when you're in our side of the business and somebody leaves to go for CrowdStrike, you just can't compete with them because the
right,
package is too good overall.
yeah,
So,
yeah, you don't even
no,
bother.
you're exactly right. $25,000. Come on.
Yeah, you can't even pay for your health insurance anymore for that.
You're
That's,
wondering maybe this guy was doing a dry run.
I mean, yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit rolling the dice. I mean, I remember back in the day when I was doing a lot more of the threat actor negotiations. I mean,
yeah,
there was reports, and there's people saying, hey, if you could, we're wanting $10 million. If you can get $10 million out of the, we'll give you a million of it and stuff of that nature. So it happens all the time, but it was in big numbers. It was
yeah,
the million
right,
plus number, not $25,000. So
yeah, yeah.
and it's not like these guys, the lapsus hunters or whatever. It's not like they don't have any money.
Oh, they got
So
more than enough money. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like they made their first offer and they just jumped on it right away, right? It doesn't sound like they went
yeah,
back and forth very much, but I mean, I think the big deal is that because we have put a lot of at least there have been conferences and sessions, this conference is full of sessions. And then all the rhetoric that we do every chance we get, right? We tell people, hey, you need to have security controls in place. But when you come right down to it, something as simple as an OPSEC problem where you got humans with cell phones, if you're kind of in a critical infrastructure environment, which obviously this is, right? We've seen what happens when this particular institution has a problem. It brings down half the planet, right? So
that's exactly right.
you'd have to feel, I'm sure it's viewed by them as critical infrastructure. And if that's the case, the I mean, the insider threat thing's a real threat, especially given, even though they caught it and they says, well, we caught it before anything bad can happen, even though there's some, there's some It's like everything. When people are explaining what happened, there's always a little bit more probably than you're talking about. Because there was people who said, yeah, but we saw screenshots of like actual data, you
Yeah,
know, as opposed to just, it wasn't him standing in front of the company logo, giving, doing a peace sign. It was just like,
yeah, exactly.
operational data on a monitor that was kind of in the background. So there's reports of that. I haven't seen pictures, so I have no idea. But the bottom line being, look, it's inside threat's still a very real threat, especially when you're something like critical infrastructure, right?
Well, and that's what I was thinking too, and it is even more so. I mean, if somebody's willing to take this amount of money, not to harp on that, but then you
Right.
really got to be concerned, right? I mean, I got kind of again, I go back to the banking world and how we had mandatory vacations for key personnel. So during that period of time while they were off, that's when the anomalies would pop up, right? And
Yeah.
so it's very hard for people to kind of babysit what they're doing nefariously if they're away from the office without access. And I think just a lot of people take it for granted that people weren't going to
Mhm.
do this or that what was there. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of with somebody as big as CrowdStrike, there's a lot to gain. But even the smallest companies, it happens. I mean, we've had people. I've had people call me where it's just been sales information. I've had people call me where even it was
Mhm.
accidental, right? Like they hired somebody and that person brought in proprietary information from a former employer unbeknownst to
Mm.
the new employer.
Right.
So I mean and that's the other thing is there's intentional insider and there could just be unintentional, right?
Yeah.
It's and I think you have to be pretty adamant about things. And I think when I worked at USAA as an example, you just were not allowed to take pictures. I mean, it wasn't like
Yeah.
not around your computer or not here. And the only time, and they had their own, basically their own app, their own containerized app, and you could take pictures with that containerized app. But if you were caught taking pictures, I mean, that was just termination. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't like, what are you doing? Let's ask some questions. Oh, you're taking a picture of a statue or whatever. No, no, no. It was
Yeah.
like black and white. You're gone. And the same
Yeah.
thing with sending an email to your personal email. We're gone. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think companies need to start looking at things like that and setting that tone very early. It's not a negative tone. You can do it as a
No.
positive thing and under an explanation, but just say, hey, there's just like that says that you're serious about it, and
Right.
you don't have to worry about somebody trying to weasel their way out of giving you an excuse on why they did it or didn't do it.
Well, when you consider that the fallout and the damage is that everybody that's working around you might not have a job, right? I mean, but depending on how bad it really is, right? It could really affect a lot of people. So you're right. I think the thing that what you're talking about, what you're alluding to, is I think we forget that humans are a part of the threat model. They need to be a part of the threat model. So when you're building your threat model, you have to think in terms of, okay, those are the systems and the processes, but there's the people part of that needs to be associated with it, and that has to do with access control, but it also has to do with physical access too. I mean, that's just, you have to consider all those elements, especially in these situations.
Well, and especially, I mean, I mean, we haven't even addressed remote employees, right? It's one
Right.
thing they catch this guy taking pictures or whatever, but you have somebody at a remote location, could be remote in the US, it could be Philippines. And I mean, those are a little bit harder to detect. I mean, can you
Yeah.
figure out that somebody in the Philippines is busy sitting there with their phone camera, pop, click, 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 click?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, you got
or
to really be
or
thinking about this stuff.
you, you could have a screen recorder running on any video conference that you're on, right? That's outside the scope of the, and they're just screen recording the whole damn thing, and
Yeah,
it's
for
easy
sure.
to do. Well, easy to
No,
do.
yeah, that's stuff. Yeah, so it's definitely stuff for people to be thinking about. You got to be aware of your employees. You need to try to be aware as much of your employee situations. When as a manager, I always made sure that I kind of understood what people were going through. I didn't try to ignore them
Hmm.
because it doesn't take much to learn a dude's behind the bills or whatever the case may be, or falling on hard times or whatever. And yeah, you care
Right.
about those people, but at the same time, you got to be a little bit. You got to raise the radar uh, resolution a little bit, increase the resolution on them because they're more willing to probably do something like this.
Yeah, standard psychological evaluation, right? You just got to be attached. You just got to be in tune with your people. I agree with you. So, by the way, just to let you guys know, we're probably going to hit this again tomorrow because we had a pretty sweet little article drop here earlier that has to do with financial institutions. So we'll
Oh
probably hit you
man,
guys up
can't wait to
tomorrow.
talk about that. Yeah,
That one's going to be a real good one. So
yeah.
watch and catch that out tomorrow. So you're good, Chris, and I'm good too.
Yep. All right. Talk to
See you
everybody
guys. Talk to
later.
you everybody later.